wake up.
Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Budweiser's Weekday Sportsbeat, along with IrishBreakdown.com. My name is Vince D'Addario. That guy right over there is Jesse Stiers, and it is Thursday, and it is the 22nd of January. We are on the front doorstep of apparently some sort of a winter apocalypse. It's going to be very cold over the next few days, which means I don't have school tomorrow, already announced, which is nuts, and I'm okay with it. So we're just going to have a little bit of fun. It's going to be yet another sprint to the finish line, Jesse, because Notre Dame women's basketball tips off tonight at 6 o'clock against the Miami Hurricanes. And that means we got to be out of here at 5:40. So 35 minutes of the Vince and Jesse show. And then we do the smooth handoff to Sean Stiers so he can call the ladies' game. So, Jesse, you and I have had a rough week. And I gutted it out yesterday. Probably not the smartest idea I've ever had, but I didn't want to leave your dad hanging. And you are now here today. I believe this is your second day back at work. So you must be feeling a little bit better. But you and I were struggling at the beginning part of this week.
Yeah, so definitely still feeling it. I probably shouldn't have worked yesterday myself, but where I work, we have combined vacation and sick days. And so I don't like to use my PTO on being sick. And so I already had to do that on Tuesday after, being off on actual vacation, had to use another vacation day because I was sick. Didn't want to do that again. So I sucked it up. And luckily, though, for me, Vince, it's easier because I can work from home. So I could just sit behind my computer, work from home. I'm not, for you got to go into the school. You got to be around people, get other people sick potentially. Me and my wife are just in this bubble. I don't know if I told you, though, but, we were coming back home from Ireland on Martin Luther King Day. And that evening, the last 2 hours of the flight, it just hit us, and we don't know if it was food poisoning or norovirus, but let's just say it was coming out of both ends the last 2 hours of the flight. And I don't wish that on anyone, having to fly and be in that kind of uncomfortable. I felt bad for the flight attendants. They had to know what was going on. As soon as that plane landed, I had to run to the bathroom again. So it was not fun. And then that evening, didn't sleep, couldn't drink water, couldn't drink Gatorade, obviously couldn't eat anything. So was a ton of fun.
I can't imagine being stuck in a metal tube and having the issues that you were having. So,
well, I want you to imagine too, Vince, I am a broad-shouldered, wide individual, and those bathrooms aren't made for people like me. So let's I want to put that out there as well.
This is facts. Yes, that's a very, very good point. That just sounds awful and always. So I am happy that you are well enough to join us today for this little sprint to the finish line. And we're going to touch on a few different things. In what we like to do here on Weekday Sports Beat and is sometimes we like to talk about things that aren't sports. And I needed to get your opinion on this because I'm guessing you don't even have one. I just found out today as I was, scrolling Twitter, looking for things to talk about, that there is going to be a Masters of the Universe movie coming out in June. Do you have any idea what that even is?
No, zero clue what that means.
I didn't think so. Listen, this is my 80s kid coming out, hardcore He-Man and Skeletor and the whole deal. Apparently they're making a movie. I had no idea. It's like a 2.5 minute long trailer. And I mean, just take my money. Just take my money now. Anybody it's like a Saturday morning cartoon, basically, is what it was, and now they're turning it into a movie. See, there it is. When you're talking about Unk, it means I'm old. That's just what that means. But like, there's people in the chat that understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, they're also your age demographic.
100%. And I'm really fired up about it. Like, I'm super excited about it. They did make one in the 80s, and it was not good. But I have seen it. If that tells you anything. But yeah, Corey, they did make one in the 80s. It was it was kind of a dark.
I know it. You and my dad, so.
Yeah, I see. Your dad and I were talking about movies yesterday, and like we were talking about like ranking like teen movies, basically. And there was a bunch of those 80s movies like 16 Candles and Breakfast Club and stuff like that. And of course, that was his genre. Like, he watched that stuff because he's about 10 years older than me, a little less than that. And then a couple of movies from the 90s were in there. And of course, those spoke to me, like Dazed and Confused and American Pie and stuff like that. Have you seen any of those movies? Like, would you even be able to rank any of those movies?
I've seen a couple of those movies. You'd be surprised. I didn't see those movies on my own. It's because I lived with my father. And he'll, anytime a movie is on, he'll put it on, or he'll record it and come back to it. I think the thing that impresses me the most about him, he watches movies like 3, 4, 5, 6 times. I just can't do it. Like, when I've watched a movie and I know what's coming, and like, there's maybe a handful of movies I've watched more than 2 or 3 times, maybe.
Really?
I think a good movie should kind of have like a lasting impression. Like, I don't feel the need to go back and watch it. But speaking of good movies, I did finish F1. That was a good movie.
Was it? Okay.
Brad Pitt, really good movie. Watched it at my parents' house and finished it on the plane home from Ireland before, I started getting sick everywhere. So that was good. But speaking of movies too, I want to see Marty Supreme. That one's in theaters right now. It's about the ping pong guy, and it's played by what's his name? Timothy Chalamet. He's in a lot of stuff right now. So I want to see that one as well. So I think another downside is the wife doesn't really like movies very much either. So, it's just kind of, we're into more of like the Survivors, or like there's a show called Traders out right now. So catch me more on like TV shows. That's more kind of my vibe. But, like I said, movies, it's hard. And especially because I'm not a person who can watch the same movie like 5 times.
Are you the kind of person that just can't sit still that long to watch like a good movie, like up and down? Because like there's people in my life that are like that.
No, I'm like, it's like a sporting event. At a movie, once I'm down, I'm not getting up. I'm not going to get a refill. I'm not going to the bathroom. I want to watch the movie. I think where I'm at sometimes is if it's a bad movie, I just get so disinterested. I can't, you know what I mean? It's hard to stay ultimately locked in, especially when you're at the movie theater.
Okay, fair enough. All right. That's our movie talk for today. I had to get that out there. And when Sean's not around to host, I get to talk about whatever I want. So that's how that went. On3. This is our buddies at On3. And nobody that I know personally are putting out these lists or whatever. And it's nice that they're giving us things to talk about, because I'm sure I texted you the list. It's a little bit easier to like kind of organize it and stuff like that, the list that I sent you. But On3 has put out this list of the top 300 college football players going into 2026. And let's just say it has given us a lot to talk about, Jesse. We can start really wherever you want. But I will preface this entire conversation with the fact that On3 has already taken down their top 10 graphic because it was incorrect. And they've already taken the story off of the front page of On3. Doesn't really sound like they're standing behind their rankings, because I'm pretty sure they're getting torn to shreds based on what I've been able to look at with this list. So I am going to throw it to you, and I'm going to let you decide where we start. And then in the chat, if you have a way that you want us to go, if you have something that you want to say about this list, it is going to be a free-for-all when it comes to this top 300 from On3, because it's a travesty of a list. It is hilarious on a lot of different levels. But like I said, we can start wherever you want, Jesse, and we'll just kind of go from there.
Yeah, I think that we should hang on to the quarterback and CJ Carr discussion towards the end. I think that's kind of main topic. I guess what I wanted to first ask you is, are you surprised by how many Notre Dame players are or aren't on the list?
Well, not only am I surprised by how many Notre Dame players are not on the list, I'm surprised at how low some of them are on the list. For example, Drake Bowen, I think, is like 250 something on this list. Now, I'll have to look to get a better spot. But his backup is 140 spots ahead of him or something like that. Like,
yeah, KVA comes in at number 89.
There you go. There you go. Which is a very interesting piece of information, because look, KVA is a great player. Don't get me wrong. It's a great player. Right now, on January 22nd, and this isn't because KVA is injured. This is if everybody's healthy. He's not a better player than Drake Bowen. Drake Bowen is the captain of that defense. He is the leader of that defense for a reason, both on the field and off of it. I mean, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about an all-around linebacker, you know, the ability to play and run, the ability to play and pass, he can bring pressures, he can play sideline, he can be physical, he can open tackle. It's a travesty that Drake Bowen isn't in this top 100, and I do believe that he is better than KVA right now. I think KVA has. I'll say about this: you can make the argument that KVA has a higher ceiling. You know, 5 years, 10 years down the road, I'd be completely fine with that argument. But with where we are today, top 100 players in college football, you can't tell me KVA is better than Drake Bowen. Just because I think there's part of KVA's game that need a little bit more refinement. And I think that Drake Bowen is an all-around better linebacker. I think he checks the box on all of those skills that I just mentioned.
Yeah, it's that's just a microcosm of the issues here with this list. Recently acquired defensive tackle from Pitt, Francis Brewu, he's either not on the list. I don't think he's on the list, actually, which is amazing to me, considering the market that he had and the schools that wanted him and the money that was being flung in his face. But he's not a top 300 player in the entire country. Like, and again, these are, I'm nitpicking, I'm pulling, and I'm tweaking, and, you know, all of these kinds of things. And just some very interesting news and notes when it comes to Notre Dame players. And like you said, we're going to get to the CJ Carr conversation here in a little bit. Because that one's just too easy. What we'll do is we'll go to a break here in a few minutes. When we come back, we will focus on quarterback. How's that sound?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah. So who else do you think was he? Maybe there's some Notre Dame guys that are ranked too high for you, or who's jumping out on this list? Either maybe they're not from Notre Dame or whatever. Like, what jumps out on this list that we need to talk about?
Yeah, I think another thing that really jumps out to me is not seeing, you know, I'm down to the 200 level right now. I honestly didn't know this thing went past 100. And so when you started saying like 300, I started to really scroll through and okay, I'm seeing more Notre Dame players. I'm really surprised not to see Keon Keeley on this list so far as well. Another guy who, you know, obviously had a tremendous ranking coming out of high school. Played a significant amount for Alabama and now is at Notre Dame. But then you also see Boubacar Traore's in the top 100, and I believe Bryce Young is just outside the top 100. I think like 103, 104. So I think something to be really freaking excited about is you have two edge guys basically in the top 100 and Keon Keeley, who should probably also be in that top 100 as well. When has Notre Dame had an overall edge unit like this before?
Yeah. Listen, after the portal pickups for Notre Dame, I mean, the defensive line is arguably one of the best defensive lines in all of college football. And
I'm already said the secondary was a top unit, and then they went out and added some guys to Tay Johnson. Leonard Moore is number 6 on this list. Adon Schuler's within, I think, the top 125. And then you add how great the linebackers are, and then how much they picked up in the portal. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be a biased super fan here, but like Notre Dame has to be considered one of the best defensive units going into 2026.
I don't disagree with you, because as I'm looking at this list, like you said, Leonard Moore is 6, right? What do you? Hold on, we'll just keep going. So Leonard Moore is 6. That's a defensive player, obviously. As we scroll down, the next defensive player for Notre Dame, I'm still scrolling, but I believe
it's Traore.
It is Traore at 66. And then we've got another offensive player. Then Kingston is at 89. Then you've got Bryce Young at 103. You've got Adon Schuler at 124, Tay Johnson at 128. So you've got 3/4 of your secondary all in the top 128. You probably
pretty
have to go
significant.
Yeah, you probably have to go a ways before you get the fourth defensive back for Notre Dame. I'm sure that they're probably not even on here. Would be a guess, because they're not going to put Christian Gray in there. And then Jason Onye checks in at 184. So now you've got
that was very surprising. He's ahead of Brew.
Yeah, that is a little surprising. I mean, look, huge pickup, keeping him for another year, getting that 6th year of eligibility. That's massive. That might as well be a portal pickup, for Notre Dame. No doubt about that. I'm all the way down to 250, and I've only come across 3 offensive players for Notre Dame. There's Drake Bowen at 257. And about to round out the top 300. And I think that is it. So a bunch of defensive guys. To your point, you've got defensive guys at all 3 levels, right? And you've got multiple guys at all 3 levels. I mean, we could have an argument about whether Notre Dame players on the defense should be higher, or where they're ranked. But you've got 2 to 3 guys on the defensive line. You got 2 linebackers. You've got 3 guys in your secondary, all on this list. That should be a pretty darn good defense. Like, even certain coaches shouldn't be able to mess that up. You wouldn't think.
I was waiting for either you or the chat to say that. But I think another interesting point is, how do we feel about only one offensive player being in the top 50 and that person being Anthony Knapp? Because I feel like that's a very controversial offensive lineman that you could that's a talking point, I guess, is what I'm getting at. A lot of people have a lot of conversations and opinions about Anthony Knapp, and seeing him, being, what is he, like 15 or 16 or something, and being one of the only offensive players, again, to be in the top 50, I was a little bit surprised by that.
Yeah, that you're talking about Anthony Knapp. You're surprised where he's at? Is that what you said?
Yes, at 18.
18. He's the 18th best player in college football. I mean, look, he got markedly better in 25 than he was in 24. And that's to be expected, when you're kind of thrown into the mix as a true freshman, especially at a position that you're not familiar with and probably not suited for. and then you go into your true sophomore year, there's going to be improvement, right? And it was significant improvement. He had a good year in 25. I still think his future's on the interior, not at tackle. And I don't think that I would say that he is. Before I say it out loud, I want to make sure I have it. I don't think I would say he's the third best tackle in the country, which is what this list has him at. They have Carter Smith from IU, Jacarius Peak from South Carolina, and then Anthony Knapp. Like, those are the three best offensive tackles in all of college football. Okay.
Yeah, I think Anthony Knapp is I think Knapp is someone in college who's going to be athletic enough to play tackle, but I think he's going to follow kind of that Zach Martin trajectory by the time he gets to the NFL and be a really good guard and be someone who can really pull around the corners and eat up kind of guys at the second and third level, getting out in front of his running backs at the next level. But it's just really surprising because I know a lot of people are down on Anthony Knapp. And I know a lot of that stems from the 24 season and his pass blocking abilities as a tackle. But I kind of want to echo what you're saying. I'm very impressed by the leaps he took in 2025 and the more consistency that we saw in his all-around game in terms of pass blocking and run blocking.
Yeah, and like this is not a we're going to throw Anthony Knapp under the bus. Like, that is not at all what we're trying to do. He's a very good offensive lineman. I just don't think he's the third best tackle in the country. That's all. And Gerby Lambert's not on this list, right? There's a lot of really talented offensive linemen in Notre Dame that are not on this list, right? That probably should be, and they're not. And then you talk about the offensive side of the football, and there are three guys that are on the offense that are on this list. Anthony Knapp at 18. Then you have CJ Carr. And then you have the Porter kid who just came over from Ohio State at wide receiver. No Faison, no Greathouse, nobody from the running back room. Like, those are the three guys that are. I mean, we're very excited about this offense. I don't want to speak for you. I'm excited about what this offense is going to be able to do. Are you surprised there's only three Notre Dame guys from the offensive side of the football on this list? And we'll get into specifics about CJ after the break.
100%. I think ultimately, though, is there's just a lot of unproven talent at these skill positions because Aeneas Williams hasn't gotten a ton of clock. Faison's the guy who's probably got the most clock right now on the entire offensive side of the ball. Greathouse, yes, he flashed, late in that national championship run season, but he was injury plagued last season. And then these transfer wide receivers from Ohio State, guys who were, freshmen last year that didn't see a lot of playing time. And so I think what this is mainly kind of hinting at is I think there's a lot of weapons on the offensive side of the ball for Notre Dame, but there's just not a lot of mileage or clock that we've seen on these guys yet. And so it's hard to say where they currently stand. I think the ceiling is tremendously high for a lot of these guys, and we know that. And, combining that with CJ Carr's skills at the quarterback position, he's going to let that ball loose, right? And he's going to give these wide receivers opportunities. So I think that's what you were saying. That's the exciting part is how I think that this list, this is something that we should revisit a year from now and see how much these offensive players jump. Do we see Aeneas Williams? Do we see Quincy Porter? Do we see Jaden Greathouse? Do we see Jordan Faison? How big of a jump do we see because these guys are getting more exposure, they're getting more clock, and also they have freaking CJ Carr. Oh, let's not forget to mention the Heisman leading candidate right now, odds-wise on FanDuel, to be the guy. So I think that's really what this comes down to is just there's a lot of uncertainty around what this offense is going to look like, but it is equipped with a ton of weapons.
Yep, I agree. All right, not surprising. We're running into it. So we got to take a quick break. When we come back, We are going to discuss where CJ Carr landed on this list because of all the things that we've talked about thus far. That is the biggest travesty of them all. And we're going to go into some detail on it. So, on the other side of the break, we're going to talk some CJ Carr and the On3 top 300 college football players for 2026 when we return on Budweiser's Weekday Sportsbeat along with IrishBreakdown.com. Welcome back to Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat, along with Jesse Stiers. I'm Vince D'Addario, and we are in a sprint to the finish line. We have about 7.5 minutes, give or take, to go before we do a nice, smooth handoff to Sean Stiers. He has the Notre Dame women's basketball call tonight as they tip off against the Miami Hurricanes at 6 o'clock, pregame to start at 5:45. So that is literally right around the corner. And obviously the women are hoping to bounce back after their loss over at UConn, which not overly surprising. It is a transition year. They were at UConn. That's a lot. And so hopefully they can bounce back against the Hurricanes here at home. But Jesse, we are talking about the On3 top 300 college football players in 2026. And it's kind of it's one of those way too early, polls and all this different stuff that people are talking about and buzzing about and all that. And why do we talk about it? Well, I do want to get that part out of the way. Why do we talk about it? Because college football is over. We don't have college football to talk about. And so when people put these lists out, that's what we have to talk about. And it made the news today. It hit today. And we have to have a chat about it because it is ridiculous. And we are going to jump into the CJ Carr conversation here. Again, 3 Notre Dame offensive players in the top 300. You got Anthony Knapp, CJ Carr, and Porter, the wide receiver. And CJ Carr, I think, is the most interesting. So here's what I'm going to do. I have narrowed the list to just quarterbacks, and I'm going to read the quarterback list until I get to CJ Carr. We'll see how long it takes, and then we'll comment on whether he belongs in that spot or not. Okay? Does that work for you, Jess?
There's a lot of names in front of him.
There are a lot of names in front of him. All right, here we go. Dante Moore, Oregon. Sam Leavitt, LSU. Julian Sayin, Ohio State. Arch Manning, Texas. Lenoris Sellers, from South Carolina. Jaden Mayava, Southern Cal. Darian Mensah, Duke, for now. Trinidad Chambliss, Ole Miss. Byram Brown, Auburn. Drew Mestamaker from Oklahoma State. Josh
That was a North
Hoover.
Texas kid.
What's that? Yeah, yes. He was the North Texas kid. Yes, you are correct. Josh Hoover from IU. Jaron Kiwi Sagapolutelli. Okay. From Cal. I'm sorry. I've never heard of this young man before. And now we get to CJ Carr from Notre Dame. He is 13th on this list. So there are 12 quarterbacks that are listed as better than CJ Carr. And even though, as you had mentioned previous in our last segment, he is currently on FanDuel the favorite to win the Heisman Trophy.
Make it make sense, Vince.
Make it make sense, man. Like, this is some unbelievable stuff here. You have to have some
reason they might be taking this list down very soon.
You got to have some scruples to back this list up, is what I've got to say. Look. This one was funny from Justin. He goes, having Arch Manning 70 spots ahead of CJ Carr is a complete joke. And then somebody else put in there, maybe they made a mistake and they flip-flopped Anthony Knapp and CJ Carr like on accident. Maybe he was actually supposed to be.
That could be it. That could be it. That would explain a lot more.
I mean, come out and say that it was a typo, like something. Like to have him as the 13th best quarterback in all of college football is ridiculous. Like, did anybody watch any of these games? Did you watch any of them?
Some of these names in front of him, like, who are we talking about? Byram Brown? I've never heard of that guy before. Josh Hoover? I think that's the guy from TCU.
He is.
I mean,
you're trying to tell me Sam Levitt is better than CJ Carr? Seriously, with a straight face.
With a straight face.
You're going to tell me that. Look.
Here's what I'll say. I think that the conversation we need to have is, who are you putting in that top tier of college football quarterbacks? I can give you who my top tiers are, because order doesn't really matter at that point, in my opinion. I think you can have your top tier of quarterbacks, whatever order you want to put them in, whatever. But if we're at the very top tier, I have CJ Carr up in that top tier. Yep. I have Arch Manning in that top tier. I have Trinidad Chambliss in that top tier. And outside of that, I mean, like, I don't believe I put Julian Sand in that top tier as well. I'm going to go out and say Dante Moore, completely overrated in my mind. If Dante Moore was so good, why is he not entering the draft as the best quarterback this year?
Right. Exactly.
Because this quarterback class sucks.
It's terrible.
Mendoza's the only guy. I'm not even completely 100% sold on Mendoza. I know he won a Heisman. He won a national championship.
He did all of those things, but it's a 1 year. It's a 1 year sample size. I mean, let's be honest. Nobody knew who Mendoza was before he came to IU and before he was undefeated and before he did what he did this year. Look, we're not going to take anything away from what he did this year at IU. I'm not taking anything away from him, but it's a 1 year sample size, right? He's probably going to go number one in the draft to the Raiders. He's a nice kid. I don't want him to fail, but the odds aren't great. I mean, let's be honest. The odds are not great. And you're right. If Dante Moore felt like he could compete with Fernando Mendoza, he'd be in the NFL draft right now, because the quarterback class is not good. It's not
good at all. And what did Dante Moore show you in the playoffs, in any of the big games this season where Oregon really needed him to step up? A pick six on the first play of the game against IU, where you stared down the out route and they just completely jumped it. Like, that's the guy who's supposed to be the best quarterback going into next season. That's really what you're trying to tell me right now.
Right. And then Sam Levitt's number two. So, I mean, there are so many things wrong with this list, and it's not great. And I know that Brian had a lot to say about it on his show, so you guys can check that out because we are out of time. And so I've got to hand it over to Sean Stiers and the women's basketball team. Thanks for hanging out with us as long as you did on Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat along with IrishBreakdown.com. Have a great night, everybody.